Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. Today's video, I'm going to be going over my thoughts on the upcoming Road to Nationals meta. Maybe if you're new and you're trying to get a breakdown of what things you need to prepare for, or just have a good discussion even with seasoned players about the meta as a whole, as well as give what I'm looking at as my options for the national season. Obviously, Arachne is kind of my mainstay right now, but we're flipping a little bit back and forth, trying different things for fun. If I go to just one Road Nationals, might be a little bit more selective, but here nor there, I want to kind of go over it with you all as a community, whether you're new or not. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hopefully you enjoy your stay. If you're a long-standing supporter, thank you so much as always. Feel free to check out the Discord down below. We have access to a really great community at our community Discord, really positive. So if you're a newer player and you're looking for somewhere to ask questions and not get judged, definitely the best place to do it. If you also want to support the channel a different way, you can check out my channel membership down below. Really would appreciate it. Really trying to make this gig full-time at some point and do a little bit full-time right now, see how it goes. So we have 11 members right now. Y'all are amazing. I'm going to be putting up at the end of the month, I'm going to be updating my member list and having it scroll on the side of each video to kind of shout out those amazing members. But yeah, we'll get right into the video. So Road National season, good or bad, any opinions I may have during the course of this video is really great. Like, our meta is awesome right now, and there are a couple decks that are a little bit annoying. Sure, that's going to be every single meta. There's always going to be a strong deck. There's always going to be a deck that gives your deck problems sometimes. You just got to live with that, right? That's card games. I will say, though, that this is the most open meta we have ever had in Flesh and Blood, and I know multiple people, including myself, have probably said that before about other stuff, but it legitimately is. Like, so far, we can easily see that it is the most open meta. I think Road Nationals is going to show that, honestly. I can't wait to do, like, a recap of some of the stats on what heroes are winning when. But, in my opinion, for week one of Road Nationals, you can't prepare for everything. I think that's one mistake that a lot of players make, both new and seasoned, is they try to tech for everything. And I think right now you just need a tech. Road Nationals is very more specific. You kind of know what your meta is going to be, right? When you're going to a calling, yeah, you know the better decks, but you always can get these wild cards. In Road Nationals, you probably, depending on your area, right? Dallas was a little hard because it's a really big area, but like here in Charlottesville, Virginia, we have one main store. I'd say our Road Nationals is going to be like 30-some players. I personally know like 20 of those decks. I know what those people are going to run, so I know what to prepare for, right? And that's something you can do with Road National season. But generally, there's going to be 3 sections of the meta that you're going to have to keep in mind. The first one is Brute, right? We have KO and Leviathan specifically. I think you might have a wild card Reinhardt in there every once in a while, but typically it's going to be KO. Is the best Brute by far right now. Not by far, but best Brute, I think, game to game, followed by Leviathan. I could see if you have a mid-sized Road Nationals, you're probably going to be playing against 3 or 4 KO, and then maybe one off Leviathan, maybe 2. But you're going to have a game plan into these heroes. These heroes are highly efficient. They do above rate damage, but they can lose the variance a little bit, right? So you got to have the consistency in your deck, maybe a little bit more tech cards. Depending on your deck and how it runs, you can run cards like Humble, which is extremely good into both of these heroes. Warmonger's Diplomacy to help stop them from playing Blood Rush Bellow. Like, you have some tech cards that you can play pretty easily in a sideboard in order to hurt these heroes a little bit, right? On top of what your hero is already trying to do. I'm trying to give suggestions without knowing your hero. So Brute's the first one you're going to have to keep in mind. The second one and biggest one, in my opinion, especially week one, is going to be Guardian. Victor and Bravo, especially Victor, you're going to have a game plan into. This is what's hurting me with Arachne right now. I feel pretty good into Bravo. Actually, I've been like 50-50 or better into Bravo, but Victor is a sledge. No pun intended. It's terrible. These decks really can gatekeep some of the format. If you can't get over their block value, if you can't get over their efficiency, you just lose, right? And then, like in Virginia specifically, I would say a good portion of our meta is Guardian. Not a lot of it, but some of our higher level players, if you win your first few rounds, are going to be on Guardian, and you have to be prepared for that. So that's a big thing with these heroes. Really, it's about playing with efficiency, maybe playing decks that have higher value, like Brute, being able to get over top of their blocks. Decks like Azalea, even though Azalea can struggle into Guardian, decks like Azalea can also get over the top really easily. So at times, especially decks like Victor, which right now aren't running a ton of defense reactions, other than I've seen like Staunch Response is like the main one. So this is the second element of the triad meta that you're going to have to prepare for. And then the third one, I think, is going to be Kasai specifically. You might have a Dory, right, or a Bolton, sure, but you don't prep for those decks. You have to prep for Kasai. Kasai is going to be the most popular warrior played in Road National season. I think there's no questions asked on that. And you have to have a game plan into her, right? If you run a heavy attack action deck like Dash, if you're not running like the hyper defensive build or Max or Katsu or whatever the case may be, you're going to have some trouble with this deck. This deck has incremental block value. It can punish you for blocking specifically, and you have to have a way around this deck. Really, this deck doesn't really have a lot of tech pieces you can play into it. It's more so like, can you run some non-attacks maybe if your deck naturally fits those in? But really, it's just a skill check, knowing when to block, when not to block, what's left in look in their grave and their banish after they banish with Kasai, what's left in their deck, similar to like Dorinthia, right? You got to know the deck, and that's kind of the third element. So you need to have a game plan into the triad of these heroes. You need to have a game plan to Brute, in my opinion, even if the game plan is just knowing the matchup. You have to have a game plan to Guardian, and you have to have a game plan to Kasai. Now, there's one I haven't talked about. It's the ultimate equalizer. Go figure, it's freaking Dromai, right? Go figure that Illusionist is the like gatekeepy side of the deck. And the reason that this deck gets me more than any other one is because Dromai makes it very difficult to tech for all of these decks. Right now, Dromai has some hard matchups. I'm not saying Dromai is the best deck in the format. Brute is very difficult for her. She has to really navigate it properly, and even then, she might sometimes can't win. Bravo, Guardian in general, you hear both sides say it's favored for the other, but that just shows you like how skill intensive of a matchup it is. Kasai is kind of a buy for her for the most part. But that last statement is why Dromai is a little bit hard. So like for Arachne example, I can build a deck that is built to beat Dromai. When I say beat Dromai, I don't mean favored. I just mean it can beat her easily, right? The win rate goes from 20% to like maybe 35 if I'm lucky. But I can tech and build my deck to beat her. But the problem is I lose everything else. That's just how it is. Same thing with Uziri. Uziri is even more like that. If you build a deck to beat Dromai as Uziri, you will suck into everything else. It's just how it is. It's the Illusionist problem. Illusionist has always been a gatekeep deck in Flesh and Blood. I'm not complaining. It's just it's board state. It's just, it's simple like math on that end. So that's going to be the hard thing in RTN season. I think you're either going to have to tech for like two sides of the triad that I talked about, or tech for Dromai. Or maybe you have a little bit of tech for Dromai to try to help you out, but you're going to have to pick one side of the meta. It's hard to tech into Illusionist, but also tech into Guardian. It's hard to tech into Kasai, but also tech into Dromai, right? It's just some decks naturally can do it, like Brute. I think Brute's the greatest equalizer because they can get over top of Guardian's block values and they have good armor, but they also can hurt Dromai with their poppers. That's why I think Brute's the best class going into Road to National season overall. I don't think it's relatively close. But Guardian is really, really close behind, honestly, actually. But I think Brute's the best. So this is where I see the meta kind of going. Obviously, you're going to have your specialists, your one-off heroes. Like, we can't plan for those unless you know them. If someone has if you have a really good Kano player in your area, maybe a tech for Kano. Maybe you run AB2 with Oasis, right? Maybe you try to get around that. Maybe you run Spell Void or something like that. So there's definitely ways around it. However, that's where I see the main meta being. So what does that mean for me, right? I'll talk about myself here for a second. I have really three routes I'm going here. I have the Assassin route, Katsu, and the Brute route. Assassin route's probably Arachne. I love Uziri, but it doesn't quite, scratch that itch that Arachne does. I feel just as good in a Dromai on Arachne. I actually feel better in a Dromai on Arachne than I do on Uziri. Guardian's obviously worse. Uziri is much better in a Bravo, and it has a slightly better win rate in a Victor, but I still feel better with Arachne. So it's either Arachne. The second element is Katsu. Katsu's always my fallback. I feel good in a Dromai. I feel good into all of the meta, actually, except Victor. Even Bravo I feel fine into. I can get around that matchup. But Victor is actually horrible. I've won it a couple times. It's not like it's unwinnable, but it's not favored, that's for sure. And then the third one is Brute. I've been playing with KO a lot. I've taken it to two armories. One armory, I didn't drop a match. I won every game. The deck's just really, really good. But a lot of people are teching for KO. A lot of people are getting ready for KO, right? So because of that, like, it could put me in a weird spot to to play it because people are expecting it, right? People aren't expecting Arachne. Honestly, people aren't even expecting Katsu right now because they think Ninja's just dead in the water. So because of that, there could be better picks because people aren't game playing. Like I just talked about in the first half of this video is like what decks should you prep for. People are prepping for KO, even if it isn't necessarily tech pieces, but just practicing it. They're practicing into that hero. They're not practicing in these other two. So that's kind of where I'm at. I have one RTN on Sunday. Right now, my main pick is Arachne. It may change. I do this every time. I want to just have fun at this RTN. I'm not worried about top 8ing. I'm just worried about having fun. So as long as I feel like I'm going to have fun, I'm okay with it. But let me know what hero you're going to play for RTN season. I'd really actually be interested to see, what the community is doing, because those top 3 sectors I talked about seem like the most popular, but it could be wrong, right? Different metas are different things, and it could pose different, situations depending on your meta. So let me know down in the comments below. But if you like this type of content, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. Feel free to check out the channel membership down below as well. If not, it's totally fine. Go to another Flesh and Blood creator. Leave a like, comment, subscribe on their stuff. I want to get more people seeing this game. Also, I'm going to link down below. I'm a boast his stuff a little bit here. DM Armada did a Flesh and Blood starter guide for 2024, and I want new players to see it. So if you're a new player and you're wanting to know how to get in the game at the best possible way, go watch that video. It's down in the comments down below. I'm going to promote a couple videos in a row, so just be ready for that. But yeah, thank y'all so much. Hopefully y'all have a great day, and I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk.